The council meeting for Tuesday, November 16th. I'd like to call this meeting to order. If we could all rise for pledge allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Doing roll call, all council members are present. Any public comment at this time? No public comment? Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
Excuse me. Mayor and Council, there is two addendums to the agenda. They're both consent items. It's a MOU for the investigator reassignment and for the chief to replace that person with another officer for the investigator position.
So we're calling that L22?
L22 and L23.
Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda with the amendments?
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Motion to adopt the agenda with the amendments from Councilman Lundin and a second by Councilman Burgley. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Approval of the City Council minutes for October 19th, which was a regular meeting of City Council. October 19th of a Committee of a Whole, and September 28th, a Park, Recreation, and Culture Board meeting.
Second.
Motion to accept by Councilman Collison and a second by Councilman Lundin. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Announcements. Park, Recreation, and Culture Board meeting will be Tuesday, November 23rd at 6 p.m. City offices are closed Tuesday, November 24th in observation of Thanksgiving Day, and Friday, November 25th. City Council meeting will be Tuesday, December 7th at 7 p.m. with a Economic Development Authority meeting December 7th following that council meeting. Any council committee reports? None at this time. Let's move to the public hearing then. The assessment hearing for the Main Street reconstruction. Mr. Cook?
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So if I can kick it off with a short presentation before we open up to the public hearing. There we go. So, there we go. So as we know, we've already gone through this process of the feasibility report, holding the improvement hearing, competitively bidding the project, and completing that work now. We are ready to complete the process of levying the assessments with this final assessment hearing for the Main Street reconstruction project. So that project limits was from Whiskey Road to 4th Avenue. We reclaimed the entire street section and replaced all the curb and gutter as well as the sidewalk along the entire length, and reconstructed the ped ramps to meet ADA current standards. We added 2 extra catch basins at the low spot over the ditch crossing to improve drainage and get the water out the street faster. And the sanitary and sewer and water main were found to be in good shape and were left in place. So the final cost of the project, the assessable cost was this $534,689, 25% of which is assessable per the city assessment policy, which averages out to an average assessment of $4,608.85. It's an assessment that's based on front footage. So each resident was given a letter with their individual assessment 2 weeks ago or so to notify them of this meeting and give them their specific information. Some information about how these prices came out. This original report estimated the project at $657,000, and if you see that the actual assessable cost is $112,000, $22,000 less, which averaged out to a savings of $1,052 on average, and a reduction of 18.6% from what we originally had talked about. Half of that was in the design, the value engineering of what was included in the project, and getting the actual quantities down from what the original report had said. And then the other portion of that was we got very good competitive bids, and the project stayed on track and under budget. So, as I said, the assessment policy is we assess 25% of the street improvement cost. We did not assess the portion of the street that was wider than the city standard width, as we had discussed in the report. And so that was taken out before the assessment amount was averaged out to that cost per foot. And then it was distributed by the accessible front footage of each parcel. That's assessment roll is available for anyone to take a look at. The policy would be to levy this assessment over a 10-year period at 1% above the interest rate that I guess I never did clarify.
Yeah, it would stay at 1%. That is the lower between the two current rates and the rates at the time the public hearing was called for.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it would be levied at with this 2% interest rate. So that average assessment that we'd mentioned would come out to about a $513 a year amount on the tax roll. And I guess the general information about it was that came out to about that $52.23 per foot of accessible frontage. And so some odd-shaped lots had different lengths that were actually accessible than their physical frontage that they had, but we, calculated all that out, and if they have any questions about it, they can certainly ask how theirs was determined. And that is about it. So at this point, if we open up to public comment or questions, if there are, no formal challenges and submitted paperwork, I guess we'd be able to proceed with levying these assessments per our resolution. So.
Anybody that'd like to speak on this matter, feel free to step up to the podium, state your name and address for the record. Nobody at this time? Oh,
I'm Elaine Fisher. I live at 508 Main Street West here in Isanti. And I guess the question I have is, it was supposed to have been paid by the 15th of November. I believe if you were paying it in full, and it had not been adopted yet. So my question is, do we still have 30 days from the adoption, which I'm assuming is going to be tonight, in which to get it paid with no interest?
Yes, we would honor that by code, yep.
And is that paid here at the city, or do we have to go to the county to make payment?
Nope, you would pay that here.
Okay.
Yep, we won't actually send the assessment roll over to the county until later in the year. It would be toward the end of December. So you can pay those in full here, yep.
I guess just to clarify that 15th is for each year following this year as well. So after this first year, if you want to pay off what's left, you would need to have paid that by that 15th in any future year to pay it off.
anyone else would like to speak on this matter?
Leroy Johnson, 510 Main Street. I have a question on the sodding. Is that going to be coming up later in the agenda, or can I speak on it now? The sodding?
The sodding, the grass,
Sodding.
the grass.
The grass, the new grass that they put alongside of the
Okay.
sidewalk. Are they going to, is there a retainer being made to the contractor to resod next spring? Because if they get this sod to catch, it's gonna be an absolute miracle, and we should be able to get it to start on top of the sidewalk. because in front of 508, 510, 600, 610, and maybe farther on to the west towards Whiskey Road, there was no black dirt put in below that sod. And it's just as hard as concrete. And if they can get that to catch, it's gonna be an absolute miracle, in my opinion. So,
Because, Mr. Johnson, we've had this on Sixth Avenue, we had this issue as well. I'll let Mr. Cook explain that, because I know exactly what he's gonna say.
all right,
Well, actually, this is a different situation in that they did sod it in over a month ago and that grass has taken. I guess if there's areas that it isn't rooted, that's the only piece that we would be able to reject it at this point because it all is still green and as far as we were aware is rooted already. So we can certainly come take a look at it and see if it isn't, because if it's not, then it wouldn't have passed our approvals and then we would have to remedy that situation. If it rooted and it was green, if anything died over the winter, that would be after,
right. Yeah,
the warranty.
See, I understand. I think what we've experienced right where we are is because if you go down towards Madison Park or right to the east of Elaine's property, black dirt was brought in there under the new sod, the new sodding. That was no black dirt brought in on 5/8, 5/10, 600, or that block there that I live on. They removed the old and laid the new, and we asked about black dirt, and they said we can't put it in because it'll be too high. In other words, too high above the sidewalk. Now you can go on right down on our adjoining properties, and I can pick that sod up. It isn't going to grow. I'm sure of that. So, and they do guarantee their work, I understand, but then is the contractor paid in full on this entire project, or is there a retainer to take care of such problems as may arise? I'm not saying will, but may arise. That's my question.
Yep, so we have a 5% retainage, still held, the project's not closed out, so those types of things are directly still open. With that said, even if we closed it, they have a 2-year warranty of most all their work. Sod is a little different in that once it's rooted and green after 30 days, then it becomes the resident's responsibility to take care of, but if it's not rooted, then it's not past that first stage. But otherwise, yeah, so there's still a warranty that's covering all this work for 2 years, like cracks in the concrete, things like that as well. So it's not completely done no matter what, but right now it still has the 5% retainage open as well, so.
So come spring, you call us, Mr. Johnson, if anything's wrong.
Yes, sir, I will.
Anybody else that'd like to speak on this matter? All right, I'll close the public hearing at this time.
I just got one thing to say now that the public hearing's closed. Are they not supposed to put a certain amount of black dirt underneath the sod?
So,
All the
right,
way
so-
through the project?
Yep, when we have a full, new section to put in, we have 4 inches of topsoil called out. When they are stripping the back edge of the existing sod to match in,
Mhm.
it's not very common to actually cut straight down 5 inches, at that exact limit. So that last, kind of 2 feet or so that weren't disturbed usually is, you just cut out the actual grass section and then whatever was there is treated as it's matching the rest of the existing yard, because that's what was there under the grass. And so that does happen, and depending on how bad the condition was and if it was rock hard packed and the root, it's not possible to root, that's why our approval is that it actually is rooted and you can't lift it and it's green. And so if those things haven't happened, we'll have to, remedy it one way or another.
Okay.
I'll be the second call. You know how anal I am about my yard, and I live right on Main Street. So I'll be calling with you if mine don't grow.
I know that, the unfortunate thing is sometimes when you retire, I can stand and watch these things as they progress.
You stood and watched the whole project. Every time I drove by, you were standing in your garage.
When they put the sod down, I said, aren't you gonna put any black dirt down? And he said, we can't because it will be too high and it won't match up with your existing lawn. Well,
Right, so we would just have to cut it down and out to make room, but, you know, I wasn't aware of what that was or what contractor, whoever you were talking with, but at this point, you know, if it isn't able to root, it's not, yep.
Any other questions? Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve by Councilman Lundin and a second by Councilman Burgley. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Moving on to K1, the certification of delinquency charges for sewer service payable in 2022. It is a requested hearing by Mr. George Heeman. Mr. Becker.
Yeah, so this is the time of the year when we go through, scoop up the delinquent utility charges, and prepare those for the council. If approved, they would go to the county and they'd be payable in 2022. There's a $30 assessment fee on that for the administrative portion of that, but there's no interest charged on that. Part of the notice that all the residents on this list got gave them an opportunity and a specific deadline to request a hearing, basically to be able to speak. This is not a public hearing, right? But an opportunity to speak before the council. We have one resident that did meet that deadline, and that was Mr. Heeman. So he should be given an opportunity to speak. The length of time that he speaks should just simply be a fair and reasonable amount, but is otherwise essentially up to the presiding officer.
Mr. Heeman, you like to step forward to the podium? State your name and address for the record, sir.
George Heeman, 323 Palomino Road.
It's been a long time.
It has been. I hate having to come up here. It seems like whenever I'm having to talk to you guys, I'm biting you over something you want from me and I get nothing, which is basically the case again. You know, I look back over all the ordinances and I read them, and I see that a few of them have been switched because I suggested last time I talked to you gentlemen about this, that you should either change the ordinance or the wording, because like one of my parcels is just an empty lot, but it said that in order for me to be charged for that lot, I had to have a premise. Well, I have no buildings on that lot, but I noticed you redefined the word premise in your ordinances. But I guess the problem I'm having is that I really wish you guys would re-explore the whack and sack fees. What you use them for, how you charge people, the connection fees. It's really hard. The reason I haven't paid anything, it's really hard for me to pay something that I get no benefit for. I know you can argue, you could say, well, you know, you're part of the system now. Someday you might hook up to city sewer water. These are maintenance fees, but I'm not using it. I'm not no wear and tear on your system. I know that I've heard the argument before. Somebody else up here a few years back talking to council, and they said, the council came back and said, well, if we didn't charge you this, we could make you hook up to city sewer and water. That's what other cities do. Well, actually, other cities do that, but it's very few that do it. We're kind of an exception to the rule. I know the last mayor put all this into play, and I just want you to look back at it. I know it's like $24,000 to $30,000 a year income for you guys to force, basically, the way I look at it is force people to pay that fee, even though they have no access to it. So, I was going to ask if you would rethink it, waive my late fees, I'll pay it in full, both parcels. I'd also like you to look at, I have two parcels, but see my front parcel, I don't even know if it's buildable. And I homestead both parcels. Now, maybe we can change the wording where per homestead pays the fee. Because I don't believe developers who have a whole bunch of empty lots homestead them. There might only be me and maybe one other person in the whole city that has 2 parcels and then pays 2 separate fees. I don't know, I was hoping maybe you'd rethink it, like in March, for a council of the whole meeting, relook at it, I'll give you some ideas. Maybe ask me a few questions, go from there. In the meantime, I'm willing to pay it in full, waive the late fees, I can leave Katie a check, looks like it comes out to be $126 for one, $197.28 for the other. Plus, there were a few other things. I mean, I'm getting undue notices. I mean, you need to relook at the properties that you are charging these fees to too, because I'm getting notices saying you're gonna turn off my water, post door fees. I know it's generic because that's what you do to everybody, but you can't do that to me. It's impossible, because I don't get water. I don't get city sewer or water. So those are just little things, save the city money too. You know, the other day, I gotta quote you guys. The other day you said, you support individual freedoms and you don't agree with government mandates and forcing individuals, you know, like to wear a mask. It's the same thing. I'm being forced to do something that I get no benefit from. That's all. I don't know. I guess you guys can decide what to do, and I'll sit down.
Thanks, Mr. Heeman.
How much are late fees, Mr. Becker?
What's that?
How much are the late fees?
Without doing the math explicitly here, I would assume it's $5 per month, so $60 for the year. Since we have the $5 minimum, I would assume that it's exactly that. So that'd be per parcel. He's got the 2 parcels.
Why do we charge people whack and sack fees if they're not actually using the service?
So the whack and sack fees are actually, that's a separate deal, right? That's a development deal.
Yeah,
What he's
right.
referring to is the fixed well, water and sewer charges.
Okay.
I
Which,
guess what,
let's keep in mind, he was one of the forced annexed.
Right.
yeah, so what I would say is that to my mind, the philosophy, and anybody else might disagree about what the original philosophy on that was. My thought on that would be is the philosophy there is that everyone benefits from having sanitary sewer and water in the city, period, right? To the extent that you have a functioning water and sewer system, it facilitates business, makes quality of life better. To the extent that the quality of life is better for everybody, it is better for everybody. And to the extent that you benefit from that, there should be some charge. It's why it's half the price, but that would be a council decision.
So
There
if
is
if the council remembers, we did lower all these fees. I mean, we've lowered, and Mr. Heeman, you haven't been present to see that we've dropped fees tremendously, whether it's water, sewer,
Stormwater most recently.
stormwater. Thanks, Mike. I mean, we've dropped fees like crazy in this city because, and I'll quote the council in saying we're a lot more community-friendly council. So this is solely my opinion, but I say we drop those late fees and let them pay in full. That's just my opinion. There's 4 others up here.
Well, I agree with that. I mean, my question is, why are we threatening them with shutting up water, this and that, and it's not even gonna affect them?
That's
I think it's just a generic thing
generic,
that we send
goes
out to everybody.
No, I get that, but I mean, if it's not affecting him, then why should he be paying for it?
Because it's, all the residents are on a mailing list.
There's a mailing list that they just send it out to. Everybody gets it, whether he has the
I'm
system or not.
I'm not aware of him getting any notices. I mean, if he says he did, I'm sure he did, but he definitely hasn't been charged any fees related to that. I've got the full billing history for both parcels. He's definitely never been charged, you know, a disconnect or reconnect fee or a posting fee or anything like that. So
That's good to hear.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion.
How many are listed on there? I mean, there's quite a few.
I saw that
delinquents.
too.
Yeah, there's a fair number. Most, maybe 20% of those are one single developer that just needs to get up to snuff.
So
on
is there,
all of
is
their
there,
lots.
I mean, all these individual cases, is there some type of hardship, and that's why they couldn't pay on time, or?
A lot of times you can't, as staff, we don't necessarily know that. There are certainly names that I recognize from past years that seem to be frequent, but it's a good chunk of these are one particular developer that just hasn't been paying the stormwater on their lots.
I'll make a motion that we, can we make a motion, or you still discussing?
I just I don't understand why we would waive late fees if we're not gonna do it for everybody.
'Cause
But
not
they
ev-
may have the sewer and water already.
And not everybody showed up, but he did.
Right, I guess,
At least he's paying attention.
I just, waiving the late fee, I could understand if there's some type of hardship where they couldn't pay on time, But,
I guess I would go along with Mayor Johnson on it, just waive the late fees. If he's gonna get rid of the check tonight, let's call it good. But George, you gotta keep up on it. We just can't keep revisiting this. You understand what I'm saying? And yes, we'll look into this. We'll look into this. I can't promise you anything. I'm one, he's one, each one of us are all individuals. And it takes a majority of the board, pass it. We'll look into it. That's all I can say to you on that.
And something you're not used to is we all have our own opinions, and I value their opinions, and I let them talk, so you're not used to that.
Is there, so like, when his well goes down, is there rules where he has to hook up to city water in the future, if that is the case, or can he continue to be off of city water permanently for as long as he wants?
No, he would not be able to get a new
Right.
well, yeah.
Right.
But wasn't his one of those properties that he couldn't feasibly get water to him? There was one of those properties that had that issue.
All of the annex parcels, that was one of the things that Jason and I addressed. All the annex parcels do have ready service. We spent,
Okay.
I don't remember what, 183, 165,000, I remember, something like that. Maybe actually, it was maybe closer to 400,000 to get everybody a service line.
So everybody
to
that
the-
wants to go on water can have.
Yep, to the end of the right-of-way, not onto their property, but
Right.
up to the edge of the right-of-way, yep.
How many people have access that don't actually have the water? Do you know that by any chance, or?
I do not know
Tough
that.
tough to know that.
I do not know that.
Yeah, I'm fine with waiving the late fees, but I think we probably should look at that in the future if they're not hooked up to it. I mean, yeah, they could have some future benefit down the road, but.
Right now, it's useless to them.
Yeah, right, if they're not using it, why should they be paying for it? But for this particular case, I'm fine with waiving the late fee and maybe looking at that other stuff in the future.
So are you moving?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
I have a motion to waive the fees and have them paid in full by Mr. Heeman, by Councilman Gordon, and a second by Councilman Burgley. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Moving to K2, the insurance and sale of GO tax abatement refund bonds 2021A. We have Ms. Green Northland in the audience again. Welcome.
Mayor, council, good evening. Nice to see you all again.
Good to see
Here
you.
tonight to present you with the results of your bond sale. So we took bids on behalf of the city this morning at 10 a.m. Happy to say that we got 3 bids back, some nice bids as well, given some of the market movement that we've seen in the last 6 weeks or so. You do have a sales summary that's before you that was delivered this afternoon after the sale results were compiled. So I'll just go through that quickly and then of course take any questions that you may have. So the par amount of bonds here being $1,445,000. This is down from the amount that we discussed with you back at the beginning of October. That is due to the premium that was received on the bonds. So if you go on to page 2, purpose here, of course, is to refund the outstanding maturities associated with the city's 2014A series of bonds, purely for interest cost savings here. So not extending out those maturities or not shortening the maturities either. In terms of the finance plan, we have structured this to result in relatively level annual savings with being mindful of the weighted average maturity of the existing bonds. So we can't exceed that. That just means that we manipulate the principal a little bit. That being said, in every single year throughout the new series of bonds, you are seeing savings there. Averages out to about $13,000 per year. In addition, as we talked about at the last meeting, these bonds are considered qualified issuer bonds. That means that the facility is leased to a 501c3. You are limited to 2% of the issuance cost being included within the bond issuance amount. That being said, the city will have a small contribution to the cost of issuance, right around $12,000. Those funds are coming from previously collected tax levies, so it's not an out-of-pocket for the city. In terms of security, the security will remain the tax abatement levy and ad valorem taxes, just as it exists today with the 14A issue. Method of sale, there's an incorrect note here. It says it's negotiated. That's not correct. We did a public sale today and took bids. We received 3 bids with UBB, United Bankers Bank, out of Bloomington, being the low bid. The bonds were rated AA- by Standard & Poor's, so an affirmation of the outstanding rating for the city that you previously held. Final maturity here remains February 1st of 2030, and you do have an optional call date in there in 2029. So if you did want to call those bonds in, you could. Par amount, again, $1,445,000. All-inclusive cost comes to 1.68. Your true interest cost is 1.11. Total savings here is $94,723. Council may recall when we reviewed the finance plan, we were right around $98,000. We have seen a good amount of movement in the market. Just a few weeks ago, we were down to $84,000. We've seen some correction. So ending up at $94,000 and seeing that savings come back was nice to see today. Overall, net present value savings is 5.60%. As we've discussed in the past, when considering whether or not you want to undertake a refunding, you want to at least meet that 3% threshold. So nice, healthy savings there. You've got the bid tab on the following page, so you can see UBB's bid being the low bid. You had a nice cover bid from Baird, so just 1 basis point higher, so that's really, really close. And then you also had a bid from Bernardi. And then from there, you've got the various schedules. All of this information will be provided back to the city in the transcript, so I won't bore you with all of the details related to this schedule. On page 5, you will see that debt service comparison with that total of $94,722 and 80 cents being the total savings. With that, I am happy to take any questions that council may have. Otherwise, you do have a resolution before you providing for the issuance and sale of those general obligation tax abatement bonds.
Questions, comments?
I don't think so. I think it looks pretty good. I mean, that's just, basically refinancing those, prior bonds that we had done and saving almost $100,000, so that looks good to me.
Thank God that went on record. I said, I'm glad that went on record, you just said that.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Look at that, holy. Motion to approve by Councilman Gordon and a second by Councilman Burgley. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any discussion on the consent agenda items?
I was just one question I had on that, L2 reduction of letter of credit. Mike, were we looking at on that? Are we okay with that, or?
Yeah, Jason and Sheila and I have discussed that before she left, and
Okay.
we've come to an agreement on how we take care of that, yeah.
Okay, I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve by Councilman Lundin and second by Councilman Burgley. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn by Councilman Burgley, second by Councilman Lundin. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0, therefore we stand adjourned.